Maybe we can start by talking about the milieu that you made this film. This is your thesis film at UCLA, and you made, as you mentioned earlier, Olivia's Place at the same time, and that was such an incredibly interesting and rich.
Speaking to the mic, please.
Okay. That was such an incredibly rich period in the late 60s and early 70s at UCLA in film production. I'm wondering if you can talk about your the context in which these two films were made.
Yeah, well, obviously this is a kind of ambitious student project, but it was the beginning of a series of ambitious student projects that was possible for people to make at UCLA. Because, for one thing, in those days, public higher education in California was free. There was no tuition, just a student activities fee, which I believe was $81 per semester. And at UCLA then, they allowed students to hang around for as long as they wanted. So just after I completed this film, Charles Burnett made Killer Sheep, and Larry Clark made Passing Through, both features, and Haile Garima, who was a student also in the middle of the 1970s, made actually 2 feature films at UCLA. Bush Mama and Harvest 3,000 Years. And let's see, later Billy Woodbury made Bless Their Little Hearts, and Nina Menkes made Magdalena Viraga, and Allison Anders made Border Radio, all features that were made at UCLA as part of people's graduate education. Charles, in fact, didn't release Killer Sheep, or didn't show Killer Sheep for a year after it was finished so that he could stick around in school. So, yeah, there's nothing really, I don't think there's been another period when so much outstanding work has been produced by students at one school, which was, I don't know, it was, I think it was a kind of the faculty responding to a sense of discontent among the students, which really reached a head around 1970 when there was a general strike at UCLA, and the students in the film school wrote a manifesto for how the department should be reformed, which unfortunately wasn't put into place. One of our demands, if you want to call it that, was that the faculty should be selected by the students, which I still think is a good idea, and I'm not sure I know any schools that do that, because, well, one of the problems at UCLA that the regular faculty were feeling was that it was the visiting faculty members who were the most popular among the students. And in fact, this project, I don't think I could have made it but for the encouragement of 2 visiting faculty members, James Blue and Claude Jutra, both of whom died prematurely, who were both wonderful filmmakers and visited for a number of semesters. So finally, their solution to this problem of visiting faculty being more popular was to stop having visiting faculty, which worked. So, what else can I say? Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, it was. I suppose it was right before I arrived that the most famous graduates were there, such as Francis Coppola and Jack Hill and Jim Morrison and Ray Manzarek. Jim and Ray formed the Doors, and as you may know, the Doors wrote a song about Olivia's Place. Soul Kitchen, it was called.
Can you talk about what brought you to the Muybridge project? It strikes me that in watching this film, there's a kind of something a little bit tragic about him, that he was there. You can read a kind of alternate path for how the cinema might have developed had the Zoopraxographer taken off. And there's something I find in your work where you're interested in sort of excluded or under-recognized figures throughout film history, be they those affected by the, in Red Hollywood, by the blacklist, or these kinds of spaces of real Los Angeles and Los Angeles plays itself. And that could just be my reading, but I'm interested in how this project came into being. And
yeah, actually, it goes back a bit. I mean, I first got interested in Muybridge's work, I guess, when I was a undergraduate film student at University of Southern California, and I think, well, I wasn't the only one. I think it was a time in art when people were interested in serial imagery, which was the title of a show at the Pasadena Art Museum in maybe '64, because it was when artists were beginning to work in around series organized around a single principle. It was also the time of the beginning of conceptual art, which was also I think influenced by Muybridge's work. So Muybridge was the first to come up with some of the ideas that were important in the art movements of the 1960s. Warhol's work as well, which also involved serial imagery. And many of those artists also wrote about Muybridge. Dan Graham, for example. I think Saul LeWitt mentioned Muybridge. And a few years later, Hollis Frampton wrote a biographical essay on Muybridge. I think that was in the late 60s or early 70s. So what I'm saying is my fascination with Muybridge was not original, but as it happened, I was the only one to try to create this kind of documentation of his work that I thought would be interesting to people.
Can you talk about the one sequence at the end that it looks like you staged with the two women that's suddenly in color. It's a really bold and striking choice. And what prompted that decision?
Yeah, I staged it. What? Well, what should I say? It's one of the great moments in the history of cinema. Um, well, it's illustrative of the ideas that are being discussed about persistence of vision and the way in which our eyes synthesize a discontinuous movement so that you can actually see it happen as you're listening to the philosophical disquisition on the soundtrack. Actually, it was, in a way, it was a kind of joke because I thought making this sequence that would, kind of, be strong and attract your attention. And at the same time, there's all this rather difficult text that's being spoken. So I thought it would make it impossible for anyone to actually understand the text.
Any questions from the audience? Yeah, back there.
Oh, were you at all influenced by Gilles Deleuze?
Was I influenced by Gilles Deleuze?
Sorry, he was writing post.
Huh?
You wrote after the project, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have been influenced by Gilles Deleuze, but obviously not when I was making this. I was I? No. Okay, I was influenced by Maurice Merleau-Ponty. How's that for influence? My main man, Merleau-Ponty.
How do you spell his last name?
Okay. MERLEAU hyphen PONTY. He wrote The Phenomenology of Perception, which is a wonderful book.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ted.
Going back to your statement about the color sequence you shot and how the experience of seeing undermines the chance to learn the information from hearing. It seems like there's other moments, like when you zoom in, the long zoom into Muybridge, when it's for this self-portrait, you're talking about the experience with his wife and his murder. And so there's like a few times that the movie, and you're showing, and then again you're showing still images for most of this movie, and like is that a grander? I guess is that a grander theme throughout, and like, yeah. Am I supposed to be left? Not am I supposed to, but I guess I'm not left feeling as undermined as I think I could be.
He's saying I'm not feeling as undermined as I think I could be. No, I don't. Actually, I don't think you should feel undermined at all, really. No, I think actually, I was kind of kidding before. Everything in this movie is perfectly clear. I wonder if the attraction of this movie is that it hypnotizes the viewer because of all this flickering. That's what I was accused of doing in Los Angeles Plays Itself by the programmers at Sundance. They said I intentionally hypnotized the viewer. for 3 hours. I don't think so, but maybe with this movie, it's kind of hypnotic, which would make it bad in Stan Brackage's view.
Do you mean like flicker like Tony Conrad?
Yeah, I don't know if that hypnotizes a viewer, though.
But was that their kind of reference?
Pardon?
Was that flicker, is that their reference when they said it?
Flicker?
For LA plays itself?
Flicker?
Los Angeles plays itself. Did you say that was flicker?
In Los Angeles plays itself?
That the Sundance?
No, I don't think there's flicker so much in there, no.
But is that what they said?
They didn't explain. They just said it. I set out to intentionally hypnotize the viewer, or to, yeah. I don't know what they meant. Maybe they meant Inky's narration was just so monotonous that. Yeah. Oh, the restoration. Yeah, thanks. You know, really, I didn't have adequate resources to make this film, to complete it when I did in 1974. I mean, it was actually the only thing I've ever done that got grants that were significant in producing it, but it amounted, well, anyway. I didn't really, I wasn't able to spend enough time on the color timing of the film. So the colors were never really the way I wanted them, and so anyway, for a long time, Ross Lippman at UCLA said that he was interested in restoring the film. I don't know, for like 10 years, and then finally he got the money to do it, and he did it, and it was great because they were very patient. Cheryl, the color timer, and Sean Hewitt, who gave Ross money to do some digital work for the sequences that were more than monochromatic, like the sequence we've been talking about, the color sequence that I shot, and some of the stereo cards, which was nice. So and then got blown up to 35 millimeter, which makes a big difference, I think, in the way it looks. So I think finally it's close to what I intended to make in 1974. Well, I really started in 1965, but yeah, as I said, it was. What do they say? You bite off more than you can chew. That was the case here. So, as I said, it was kind of miraculous that it ever got finished, and then I guess when you're starting out as a filmmaker, I at least have this sense of, okay, I made this film, and maybe it will disappear without a trace. Because at UCLA, when they have the screenings showing the completed projects at the end of the semester, there's never any encouragement offered to the filmmakers. So no one said anything. That's literally true, and it was kind of the same with Killer Sheep, I think, when that was done. It's kind of, okay. Another movie. Or as someone told me about when Billy Woodbury showed Bless Their Little Hearts, the sort of reaction was, well, okay, I make movies in my neighborhood and he made a movie in his neighborhood. That's nice. And that was kind of the response to Killer of Sheep as well. Wow.
You don't really deal much with Stanford at all, and I'm wondering, given especially I know there was a sort of kind of an authorship battle over the first sort of set of motion studies, and Stanford's of course a pretty important figure in the changes, especially in the West and California in particular, which is of interest of yours. I wonder if it was interesting to you at the time and you just didn't fit in the film, or?
Oh, Leland Stanford and why he didn't appear more prominently in the movie. I think that was one of the parts we cut out. What happened was, because we had received a grant for television programming through the local public television station, KCET, one of the stipulations was that it had to be a standard length for public television broadcasts, which meant it had to be either 58 minutes, which was a standard length back then, or 88 minutes. So it happened that really the what we thought was the best length was 73 minutes. So rather than try to pad it out to 88 minutes, we decided it was better to try to cut it to 58 minutes. So we had to drop, well, significant amount of material and some of the analysis and some of the stuff about Leland Stanford. Not that I was at the time particularly interested in Leland Stanford, although he's obviously an important figure in the history of Western America. And, built the railroads and Stanford University later. He was governor of California. He was, represented the entrepreneurial spirit of late 19th century America. I think Rebecca Solnit in her book, in her biography of Muybridge, gave Stanford his due, you might say. But I couldn't. Yeah, you want to prepare for the next movie. This movie came about as a result of working on the remastering of Los Angeles Plays itself. And it's a re-editing of one of the movies that appears in Los Angeles Plays itself. Actually, I think it's the first movie that's discussed in Los Angeles Plays itself. It's called The Takeover, and the reason it was discussed in Los Angeles Plays itself was that I think I was talking about the confusion between reality and the movies, and in this case, the film in some ways mirrors real events that in which the filmmakers were involved, namely the murder of a co-owner of a small chain of strip clubs, and he was murdered by his partner, and his partner produced this film, which is also about the battle for control of these strip clubs. And he solicited his bodyguard to find a contract killer, and the bodyguard is the star of the film. He plays a character called Jonathan. Well, yeah, I think you could call him a star. Although he's not top billed, he has the major part. So we found ourselves kind of re-editing the treatment of the takeover in Los Angeles Plays itself, and as a result of that, I became interested in the story of one of the minor characters. That I thought that was maybe the only kind of authentic part of the movie. And it was really, there was kind of misunderstanding. Originally I thought that the title of my movie is a quotation from The Takeover. And originally I thought that it was the only line that this character had in the movie. And I thought that would be interesting. But turned out I was wrong. But I thought, well, it would be interesting anyway to just to show his story in the movie, which is a small subplot. So I just took out and edited together all of the scenes in which he appears. So that's the story. And if you have any questions about it afterwards, maybe we could talk about it for a minute or two. I'd be curious to know what you think, since it's only screened a couple of times before.